These are where the PVC pipes are located. Down here. Depending on the size of plate you're gonna make, I would grab a bigger one rather than a smaller one. You also wanna rinse it off so there's no clay chunks that will dent your project. When you are centering, you always want to slowly apply pressure and slowly release the pressure. You also don't want to go crazy fast on the wheel or crazy slow. You want a nice medium to medium fast speed. And we're just trying to hold this clay in place. Once I feel like I have it centered, I very gently remove my hands. I can check if it's centered by bringing a finger towards the project, and as long as my finger is not getting pushed away, then I am centered. So normally we would drill and open, but we're making a plate. So we're gonna skip those 2 steps. I'm gonna put a little water down. I'm also gonna get my PVC pipe wet. Again, you always wanna make sure it's clean. Then I am simply going to hold on each side and press down. I can also, once I've got it smushed down some, put my hand in the middle so I can try to evenly apply pressure and smush this plate down. If it starts to stick, add a little more water so that I don't create any marks I do not want. All right, now the biggest mistake people make when creating a plate is they get them too thin. This is really the ideal thickness here. So do not go thinner than this. This is about 1/2 inch. My next step is to trim the plate. I'm gonna use my needle tool for that. I always put a little water down. And I don't need to cut a ton off. I'm just gonna get right here towards the edge. Hopefully you can see from that angle. And I'm just gonna hold my hand really still. Notice how my left hand is helping hold my right hand. My right hand is also resting on my knee so that my hand won't shake. Okay, then I'm gonna put some water in that little hole crevice that I just cut. I'm gonna scrape underneath here. I'm gonna stop the wheel, scrape off that uncentered excess clay on the lip. I'm gonna soften my edge. Okay, and then I'm going to lift the edges of my plate up, because if I left this flat and I was trying to carry food across my house, it would all spill off, it would roll off. So you actually want to curve the edges of your plate. To do that, this is where you need a wooden stick, ideally a big one. So I'm gonna start, again, notice how I'm using 2 hands. I'm going to scrape under the plate. And yes, you do get some clay that comes out. So I'm gonna do that a couple times to make sure it's nice and clean. I might even put a little water in there so it doesn't stick. And then I'm now going to lift my hand up so that I'm creating a ridge. And now my hands can actually kind of raise this, okay? Kind of like if we had a bowl or a cylinder. And I'm gonna thin this lip out a little bit because it's kind of chunky, and I don't wanna have to trim this with my trimming tools later on when it's leather hard, whereas we will trim the bottom when it's leather hard. Okay. If I had any issues on the inside where it wasn't flat, okay, I can use my metal rib. Always make sure it's clean. I can clean that stuff up, or I could use the wooden one as well. The last thing I like to do though is play around with the rim a little bit. So this is just kind of a traditional plate, but you can kind of flare out your rim so that you would have a nice surface to decorate. Typically, if you look at plates, people kind of do something fancy glaze or underglaze wise with the edge of their plate. And that is how you make a plate.